So we're going to solve the ducks helper task. So let's just look at what we've got to do and what we're looking to solve. So we have 5 lists, 5 arrays that we're going to use the linear search algorithm and the count occurrences algorithm, as well as creating a menu interface and having sub-procedures and parameter passing going on. So this is a bit trickier to implement all of the tasks, but each of the tasks are much smaller in themselves. So I've got it set up here. I have the arrays declared, and I have an option to store the menu choice, which I'll probably move from here eventually. So in fact, I'll just take that away just now. I want to avoid global variables as much as possible. Now these are all global, which is not ideal, but it will cut down a lot of parameter passing eventually. So I'm going to start off with the definition function for the main program, which is to control the whole program, I guess. So display menu and welcome message. So print just any welcome message. Welcome to the ducks help program. Print select option 1 for, and I'll have to just check what it was again. Search by staff name. Search by staff name. Print select option 2 for search by class name. Print select option 3 for displaying swimming information. Okay, so what we now need is an input, and this is where I should have had my choice variable, which will set equal to -1, so it's an invalid choice. I now need to get user to input choice 1 to 4. Now what we should have put in is a bracket there and print select option 4 to quit. So we want to validate this too, so we can have choice equals int input. Please enter your choice from 1 to 4. And then we want to have a do, or just a while rather, while choice is less than 1 or choice greater than 4. And we want to repeat that choice. Indenting's a bit messed up. Choice equals int input 3 enter choice from 1 to 4 only. Now, if we were to try running this right now, it wouldn't work. Now, one of the reasons it's not working is I've forgotten a bracket here. But the second reason it's not working is we have a sub-procedure called main that we're not actually calling anywhere. So, if we go and call the actual main function, you can see the menus displayed, our validation works, and we choose option 1, the program just quits, which we'll fix a bit later. Now, you can do this program lots of different ways, and we'll add in that repetition shortly. And what we want to do is repeat this part whilst choice is not 4. So if we indent that part of the program and have a while choice does not equal 4, then it will repeatedly repeat those 4 actions. So now, while choice is not 4, now when we call the main, if we choose these options, see it's not obviously calling the options yet, but as soon as we choose 4, the program ends. So what we can do after here, program has ended, display message, print, thanks for using Ducks help program, and change the quotation marks. And now when we choose option 4, we can see we get that thanks. Now we can add in these characters so that the readability is improved in the menu option. So select option 4 to quit. Maybe we should have a blank line there too, just to make it look a bit neater and easier to read. And now we've got blank lines, so the readability of our program's a bit better. So now we've got this basic menu interface, and this is how they'll always work. We can then use if statements to see which option that we want to choose. So if choice equals 1, then we need to call subprocedure 1, which was staff name search. So I need to then define it. So staff name search definition, which we'll have to implement here above the main, because main is going to call it, and if it was declared below it, it wouldn't be translated yet when it executes it, which is one of the errors that we could potentially get. So I'll just define it as staff search. Now I'm going to put empty brackets because there's no parameters, and there's also no return value, which means this is a procedure rather than a function. So hopefully you remember the linear search algorithm that we have to get a string that we want to search for. So input, enter staff name to find, and then we need to for all items in the list for I and range for the length of staff. If the current item equals the search item, then so if the current one, which is in the staff list, so if staff at the current position I equals the search name, then now we're going to get some issues here, because the staff name could be a combination of upper and lower letters, and the same for the search name. So if we convert them both to upper, that will save us some issues. Now that won't change the value in the array, just the two that are being compared. Now if that's true, then display this staff details. So we can say print, let's just print staff using the array staff I, room number, rooms I, and then class name, I, number students, and again we want no students array at position I, and swimming, swim at I. Now we're going to get lots of errors with this line here, so you can see it's line 26, so let's run it and see the typical errors we get. Now unexpected indent block it's happening because of this piece here. I haven't used a call to my sub procedure yet, so I'm going to call that now. So we need to put in the call in the main program. And now another way to do this would actually be to create the code here for the sub procedure and then move it to its own sub procedure once you know it's working. So that should take care of that error. Now if we call choice 1, it will call the staff search function, enter name to find, so we go for Mr. Pavey, who I know is in our list, and it actually worked okay. I was expecting some errors there. So you can see Mr. Pavey, room number D01, class name Panthers, number of students 20, swimming is true. Now the reason I was expecting errors is because I thought this integer, this number of students, would want converted to a string. That seems to have worked okay, so that part's actually working. Now what's not great about it is it having blank lines, so I'm going to type in a new line character here and another one here just to improve the display on there. So if we choose option 1, enter staff name to find, and I'm going to search for Mr. T, who's not in there, which didn't really produce a great output. It doesn't tell us anything. So if I choose option 1 again, and this time search for Mr. Pavey, spelling his name with upper and lower case, should work, and it did, and you can see we get this blank space again for the output. So what was the problem with the last one? When I searched for a staff member, it wasn't there. The output wasn't very helpful. So what I'm going to create is a found variable that's set to false to keep track of search success. So if they find them, if this is true at any point, we can say set found to true, found equals true, so only one equals because it's assignment. And now when that loop stops executing, we can then have a new message appear. So if found is still equal to false after that loop finishes executing. Let's put some comments in. If found is false, then that means it's been through the full list and found no matches. Send name not found to display. So print, and this is where we have to print in the search name was not found. And then this time we'll have a much more user-friendly output. So we choose option 1, staff name find Mr. T. We can see Mr. T was not found, and again we should maybe put some blank lines in there to improve the readability of that, so we can go back to that display and have a \n and run that again and choose option 1, Mr. any name that we know is not there. You can see that says not found. Choose option 1 again, search for Mr. Mrs. Monroe, who I know is there, and it prints it she's found, and the quit option works perfectly. So that's if choice is 1. We now want to implement else if choice is 2. So we have elif choice is 2. Then we want to call the function for class name search. So to save the error we got the last time, I will define it first. So class name search sub procedure def class name search, and call it down here, class name search. Now I'm going to do this one slightly differently and use parameters. So we're going to have class name equals input enter class to find. Now that means that this function is going to be called with a parameter called class name which is the class we want to search for. So in these brackets here, we must declare the name for the parameter. Now this is where it exists as a local variable within class name search, and down here class name is a local variable to the main program, so they don't actually exist in the same space at the same time. So you can either call it the same name as you do here, or a completely separate name. So I'm going to just use search here. But when that function is called, sorry, that sub-procedure rather is called, because we're not going to have a return value, we pass the parameter and then we can call it a different name here. And I'm going to keep in the found part that we had earlier. And then we're going to, I'm going to leave the internal commentary so you can add it for I in range length of class name. If the current one equals, so if class name I is equal to search. Now this is where we're using the search as a local variable in the local scope, which means it only exists in this sub-procedure. And we can then say found equals true and print out details of that class. So if we print out search class teacher is, and then we print out staff at the current index. And again, we can use the same principles as earlier. If found is still equal to false after we've conducted the search, we can print out search variable as not found. And just to make that a bit better, we can maybe say class was not found. So if we test this now, you can see we've implemented the else if that calls it. This one's slightly different as it has one parameter, but it's still a procedure because we haven't put a return value in there. There's not really a calculation that I want to get a return value for. And really, passing this parameter is different from how we implemented staff search, but in terms of functionality there's no difference, but it's important that you understand how these parameter passes work. So let's test option 2 now. So search class defined, let's try someone who's not there, and we can see that we got this class was not found. And then if we try it again and we search for, let me just check for the actual name of someone, let's search for Eagles and we should get Mrs. Monroe. Now I didn't put in the uppercase, so I've got to be careful how I type it, and then we obviously did get that return back. So things we can do to tidy it up, we could add in the backslash new character, or new line rather, in order to just keep that readability in our program really high. Next, we want to implement the third choice, which displays swimming information. Now, you can see here that the swimming team needs to know advanced information about the total number of students who are going to come to swimming lessons. It's got to count up and display the number of students from the classes who will be swimming. So you can see the only class that aren't swimming are this one. So we need to implement the count functionality to count up how many students are in the classes that can swim. Now this is a challenge that you've got to complete yourself, so I would suggest planning it out first before implementing it, and either use pseudocode or a flowchart to do so. Now typical code that you're going to have is else if choice is 3, then we call a function that we would declare up here, or a procedure, sorry, since there's no return value. Or you could do a return with this one if you wish. There's not any correct answer as long as the functionality works correctly. Count of swimmers, so def, and we called it down there swimming, to fix my def swimming totals. Now pause the video here and only use it if you're really struggling to complete it or have to complete it out with class time. I'm going to leave out internal commentary, but you should definitely include it in yours, and expected to explain your code. Students, I print, and I will start this off. New line, the number of students who will be swimming is count. And that will work when we call option 3. So if we run it now, check our syntax, and that's because I've written else if and not elif like I should have, so it's a syntax error. Enter choice 3, and we can see that it says the number of students who will be swimming is 62, so 62 students expected for swimming. So let's do a quick check. So 20 plus 22 is 42, plus another 20 is 62 students. Let's test it again to make sure we get the same answer both times. So looking for 62 students, which is indeed what we get. So your final program should feature internal commentary for all of the other explanation or other lines of code here, explaining them in depth. And you can see that this is starting to build up complexity. And in fact, the only thing that's missing are file reading and writing and sorting, or this could really be a year 11 project, a very simple one at that. So try and get this all complete and make sure you can understand and explain all the code. Make sure you use upper in all the searches. Make sure you use internal commentary to explain the other lines of code, which I haven't here.